So, how does coming out as trans today compare to how it might have been in the 70s and 80s? Today, we'll be talking with Mardi from her channel Beyond Trans here on YouTube to help us answer that question. So, again, we're interviewing Mardi today.
How are you? How are you doing?
Wonderful. Good. How are
Good.
you?
I'm doing good. It's strange times. Like we were talking before the show, it's getting stranger and stranger out there every week, and I just um, uh, my heart goes out to everybody that has to work in it, because just going out in that and seeing all the essential workers doing their thing and all stressed out and stuff, it was just palpable, and it was really heavy. But I feel grateful that I'm safe and here on Vancouver Island, Canada, and luckily I'm with my husband, and but yeah, it's really tough right now. But but thank you for having me on here. It's like it was
Yeah.
wonderful to have you on my channel on a couple weeks ago on the live stream. Everybody loved you. It was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's
So
wonderful to have you on my channel. Thank you so
yeah, this is
much.
this is my first collab, my first official collab. It's on
Well,
awesome.
you're
Yeah,
welcome.
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I'm so proud of you. I think you're wonderful. So just take it away and throw your questions at me.
We're gonna go on an adventure today.
Yes,
So,
that sounds fun. And I'm in Lotus Land right now, so I thought I'd bring um,
yeah,
one of my wonderful collections with me.
it's
This is the
a
gold.
it's a nice escape from the quarantine world that we're living
Yes,
in.
it is definitely.
I'll quickly put on my cats in the
Yes.
background.
Ooh, yes, I like that too. We must jazz it up. Yeah.
For any of my viewers out there who maybe aren't familiar with your channel, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are, what you do?
Sure. Well, I'm on mainly on YouTube. We're talking about it's, and I have a channel called Beyond Trans with Mardi. That's my name, and I did call it a trans experience for a while, and I wanted to January 1st kind of move it forward with uh, kind of like what my mission statement is about, is to deepen the message of the transgender, transsexual, whatever you want to call it, experience um, uh, into the mainstream and into the community. Like get a dialogue going, um, keep that dialogue going. In all people in all different stages of transition and whatnot, and give them a voice, on the channel, and yeah, it's like and I talk about. I also do uh, regular regular uploads. I call it my SRS Decades Past Manual. So I do a lot of talking about the experiences I've had, being a woman of 58 years old, being 58 years old, and coming out of the gates at 15, 16, living authentically. And unfortunately, back then, that was 77, 78. It's like I, like a lot of us kids back then, there wasn't the acceptance that there was now, so we ended up having to do a lot of survival sex work and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I talk about how I managed to navigate through that, and and become 58 years old and relatively sane, and I have a good life, and I went back to school, and even I even had a alcohol and drug addiction, and at 28 years old, I went into recovery and never looked back, and my husband's in recovery too. He's got 35 years, and it's like I just surround myself with. Started surrounding myself with people that were on more positive paths. It was your only way of life, is that to survive or to be a showgirl. So yeah, I talk about all that stuff on my channel. So the last three, it's I've been on almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in like May that I've been on. I had this channel. So First,
Congratulations.
first, thank you. Yeah. And first off, it was just about, I think the first one I did was transgender. Is it Day of Visibility that's in the spring?
That's
That's
so
the,
funny because I started my channel on Trans Day of Visibility two
did
years
you?
ago.
Two
So,
years ago.
so my 2 year anniversary is
Oh,
like
well,
right now.
congratulations. That's amazing. 3 and 2. We'll
That's
always
so
remember
funny.
that. That is so neat. And I remember being so nervous. And I was in we have like a little yoga meditation room that I also do meditation and yoga videos on my channel. So if you ever need to chill out and, from all of this crazy and all that. So anyways,
Yeah.
but backtrack back to the yoga room, doing my first one 3 years ago. And I was so scared doing it. And I'd been on social media. I started social media in about 2013, 14, Facebook and everything. I wasn't on any of it. And I started to see how the trans movement, and I didn't even know it was like the trans movement. It's like, because I come from transsexual and all that terminology. And didn't realize how stealth I had become, because I had just been focusing on, turning my life around since 1990, 91, getting clean and sober, going back to school, working in community social service work in Vancouver, BC, and becoming a recreation therapist and working with mental health and addictions and doing all that stuff and just living life, right? Like there was no, and back there was, not to my knowledge, there wasn't all of this community-based trans stuff happening. Like it was just any type of trans stuff that was around. I was kind of involved in it because we were the ones in Vancouver that there wasn't very many of us that had made it through on our own and went back to school
Right.
and stuff. And a couple women that were a little bit more academia educated than me. She's still around, Sandra Laframboise. She started setting up booths at gay pride places and stuff. There's always that gathering
Yeah.
at the end, and people have booths and stuff. And I went there reluctantly to this gay pride thing because I was going, I'm not going to pride parades, I'm not doing anything like that. But I felt really bad. This was my penance because I'm a recovering Catholic, nuns and priests or schools and all that stuff. And this thing happened to me a couple weeks before that gave me this guilt and made me go to this parade. I was on the bus going to work. A few minutes later, I'm reading my book and I'm hearing some people saying some horrible things to this person that's getting on the bus. And I realized that it's a woman, a trans woman. And you could tell that she was in her early stages and very awkward. And she got on the bus and she kind of sat down and they were jeering at her. And I felt so bad because I could feel myself just instinctively starting to sink into my seat
Right.
because I was fearful. And then I got up to get off on the next bus stop and went to work. And a friend of mine who was gay, that I told him about it, he was a coworker, and I said, I feel so bad about this, and this is what I did. And it felt like I was, a German-looking Jew in Nazi Germany. You know what I mean? And I was like, gonna let one of my own, just
Right. I could
whatever.
imagine you maybe wanted to do something, but it didn't feel safe to do it.
No, it didn't. And it was like, and it made me sick that I didn't do anything, because today I would just rip them a new one, right? Like I would just go, what's going on? Like, so my friend, there's a big story, and I kind of talk like this, sorry. So coming around to this at the end of this story, my friend said, well, if you feel that guilty, it's like, I think what you should do, because he was in the program too, where it's always about making amends to ourselves and stuff or whatever. And he says, come meet me at the Pride Parade. And I'm going, I'm not going to go to Pride Parade. And he said, meet me at the Pride Parade. He took me to where they have all these booths, and there was Sandy Laframboise. I didn't know that was her name, with these couple other trans people. And I was going to say trannies, because that's another thing, because like I'm that old that we say it like that so easily, and I know that it's kind of offensive to some young people type of thing, but
Yeah, it's
to
kind of
us,
seen as like a slur, like to a
yeah,
lot of
and to
younger
us,
trans people.
and
That's
to
like
us,
how I know it, is as a slur. That's how I know
yeah,
it.
and to us for it's kind of like black people and the N word, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like it was relative to your experience type of thing. For us, it was a self-identifying quick way, and it was very kind of like it was just kind of like, hey girl type of thing, you know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah. And but just to finish to tie this up, he said to me, he says, go up to that booth and ask how you can help. And I went, oh God. I said, okay. So I went up there, and they were starting a high risk society. And it was a drop in for trans persons to come in and seek advocacy and outreach and stuff like that too. And it was interesting. It was uncomfortable, and I ended up starting an NA meeting there in the evening, like downstairs. And it was weird because I ended up uh, meeting all these people that a few people that I had worked with back in the day, like when I was really young, because
Oh,
at first I worked on the streets when I was really young, but I learned how to do it really quickly where I could just work at escort services or sugar daddies and stuff like that because it was so scary out there. So it was really sad. It was like about just in 10 years seeing these people that were just they were like the clientele that I was working with in mental health, right? And it was,
yeah.
and I saw there for the grace, as me, right? If I hadn't have gotten clean and sober when I did, so that was the first parts of advocacy that I saw in my life, really, and I
Yeah.
was kind of in a sideways way, kind of part of it, and then Sandy was working with the human rights. Our province is British Columbia, and we helped change the laws in BC in the early '90s with the human rights to change their human rights codes and stuff,
Oh, cool.
and all that stuff. So it's neat that we're on the record. So it was kind of like I was I was part of it because I
You
just
were part of the
happenstance.
change.
I was part of that change then. Yeah, I guess I was. But now it's like I see there's such a huge which is so wonderful. And I especially when I started on social media, seeing Laverne Cox
Yeah.
and the tipping point happening and
Hmm.
Time magazine. That's about when I started social media. And so I thought I was sick. I remember I was sick and I started Twitter and all this stuff. And I was uh I I started following Laverne and I was like just I was really excited for what she was doing and I sent her a few comments and stuff and she started following me and I was like and I didn't know it was a big deal, right? And she was until she was doing this documentary called The T Word, and it was on MTV, and it's actually she won an Emmy for that it was
Yeah.
producing or something, and so I did a couple of the junkets with her. So these young kids would talk, and then they'd have me online talking about what it was like back in the day, like we're doing now,
Yeah, that's so
to just
cool.
yeah. So it was nice to do that, and then so I started connecting with all of these. Advocates at the time, Angelica Ross and
Yeah.
Trace Lissette and all
Hmm.
these people that I started meeting online because they were kind of fumbling their way through, pushing their way through, and some of them have been doing amazingly now. Um, but we were all healing from the same stuff, right? Still, there were still those remnants type of thing. Kind of nice to just kind of have fallen into it at a time and didn't put too much credence on like the social media how big they were in it type of thing because
Right.
I was just so stunned that we were actually even able to do anything
Right.
and
To
then
have any sort of like public
and,
platform.
exactly and because I started a blog called Some of My Parts and I was writing some of
Mm.
my old stories and that's when Laverne and people said, this is really good. Like you should, write, do something with this. And it just blows my mind. And then I started YouTube and did my first one three years ago because of the Transgender Day of Visibility. And
Yeah.
it was my kind of, because I realized I was doing social media, but nobody really knew, like my friends, I never really talked about being trans, like because it wasn't a thing because for me it was just about just getting all the surgeries and of course I questioned all that too but it's like but I knew I wouldn't be happy until I had, everything done. And, and that's been done for decades. And so it was kind of interesting to see that all of this talk was happening about trans stuff. How crazy it is too, like that the visible minority on social media type of thing, and how
And it
it
really was like a tipping point, like that Time magazine cover that we all know.
yeah, it really was a tipping
And that
point,
was
and
only what,
everything
like
just poured right out.
that's only like what, like 6 or 7 years ago.
6 years ago,
Yeah.
yeah, about 6 years ago.
And like
Yeah.
that was the time when I started coming out.
Yeah, see, and look at how fast you did. Wow, it's amazing. Because all of this, and beautifully, I might add, I'm so proud of you.
Thank
I think
you.
I am. I was just like going, yes, another one that's going to get in there and just help change things and,
Yeah, I'm just
from the inside out. So great.
just gonna burn everything down and rebuild it.
Yes, yes. That's great. Yeah. So I'm just so excited. I went all over there. So just steer the ship and ask me another question.
Like all that was tell me about yourself, and you
Yeah, no
you touched
kidding.
on like half of the questions I
Yeah,
had, which
oh
I
my
think is
God.
really funny. Going back to something you said a little while
Sure.
ago, I was thinking of it when you were talking about like using the word tranny, and you've told me you describe yourself as transsexual.
Yeah.
So I was kind of wondering if you could tell people like why you choose to use that term, because I know a lot of younger trans people either don't like that term or feel it's
Yeah.
kind of weird or outdated.
Yeah. At first, I like to think of the word transgender or transsexual or whatever is as a verb, not a noun. It's
Mm,
it's it's something you do. It's not something you are. Like for me, it's like that. So because it wasn't about it wasn't about doing all this so I could be a transsexual, right? I'm just a woman. Like, of course, if you get into the whole biology of it and all that stuff, that people are just like, oh my god, it's like it just it's like, yeah, it's like, of course, yeah, I know. And it's just, I feel like I'm, you know, like I'm the witch and Wizard of Oz, like melting when people start talking about that stuff. It's just so, ooh, because it's just like, okay, it's like, why are you talking about this stuff? Like, it's just, I did this to, uh, to feel congruent I was born in 1962, born in the wrong body. And it's like, and so I did everything I could to become, uh, and to present, the woman I am. And and then I just lived in society. I was a punk rocker in society, in mainstream society in the 80s type of thing. I didn't talk about being like, the word trans wasn't even around, or transgender and stuff. But if it came right down to it, to talk about it, that was the term that was used, as transsexual. It
right.
was transsexual, like it was going from one to the other. And I even hated saying that word. And it's like so many trans people out there that have had the full surgeries and stuff, vaginoplasty and all that stuff too. It's
Hmm.
like I even would lie and say, well, there's intersex stuff going on. I think that's such a common thing for people to say, especially back in my day, because you did not want to, you wanted to you just wanted to blend, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And there wasn't the community. Like when people talk about the LGBT, well, it's been my experience that they were just as ignorant as the straight people were, or the mainstream people were. Like
Yeah.
everybody, it didn't, like, everybody was kind of dumb when it came to my transsexual experience or
It was
trans
more like
experience.
LGB and T.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really
and
more like LGB and T.
yeah, well, because when people start saying the LGBT, I was going, well, what is T doing in it? It's like, I have, I can, I'm a proud, Madonna poser lesbian when it suits me, type of thing. But I'm, uh, and I went through, different phases and stuff. But it's like, I definitely just, I'm just a heterosexual woman that's had a transsexual experience. So it's like,
Right.
a part of me is going like, I'm not gay or whatever. So I always felt kind of out of place there. But it was my safe space to go to as a kid. Like all the trans centers that there is and stuff now, mine was the gay clubs.
Right.
Mine was gay people to be around there. But they were just as straight as they were just as the gays were just as straight as the straight people in a lot of ways in their minds when it came to trans people.
Like they just
And
didn't know
they didn't
really
know, and they
anything.
would, but and you couldn't even. It's like when you talked about that you would want to get a job or something, they would just look at you like you're nuts, like, and you kind of go, well, what do you think I am, playing dress up, you know? Because the
Right.
whole line with the drag scene, and especially because I was a performer too before I went into left the whole gay scene and went into the punk scene. Well, then I started to get into some of my lesbian punk friends. So I'd go to the, like, the lesbian gay bars type of thing. But when it came to just regular gay bars, I started feeling less safe there
Mm.
than anywhere. So it was easier just to kind of be stealth and be out in the mainstream. But it was so lonely. Like, it was weird. It was like
Yeah.
you couldn't be yourself anywhere, you know. And you know, every time I'd get a job, because I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be a hooker at like 16, 17.
Right.
I was working ever since I was 12 years old. And, you know, you know, bussing tables, washing dishes, waitress, doing whatever, you know. Um, and then it was like, oh my God, it's like, you mean I can't? And then every time when I tried to get a job, it's like I would get outed, and it was usually by a gay person, you know. And just like
It's horrible.
yeah, and even when I had a chance at modeling with Blanche McDonald in Vancouver, and that was 1981, and it was just like, it was in the season in Pose. I was was it season two? It
Yeah.
was about, and she got outed as well, right? And
Hmm.
so yeah, that was always happening, and then so I would get really resentful, and I would just uh, go into get into drugs and alcohol more, and men, you know, sugar daddies were abundant by then, because I knew how to, you know, work this and the whole, you know, goddess worship stuff and all that stuff. And there's, you know, so many men out there that will, when you're, you know, that young and beautiful, they'll just throw everything at you. And it's
Yeah.
like, but I hated it. I hated doing it. You know, there wasn't
I
so many
imagine it could
times.
feel kind of gross.
Oh, it was horrible. It's like, I can't tell you how many times I ended up in the hospital because when I would meet them and I'd go in the bathroom, and uh, I would I would try to figure out how much drugs I'd need to do just so I could stomach being with them. You know what I
Oh
mean? And
God.
yeah, it was like that. I just absolutely hated it because I didn't want that. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to go to Berkeley. I was I was enrolled to go to Berkeley. I was That's where I was going in grade 11 when you're making your plans and what universities and stuff. And I was going to
Right.
go to Berkeley because Carol Burnett told me so.
Right.
Yeah, Carol Burnett. Yeah, I wrote Carol Burnett when I was a kid and told her that I was in all these different plays. And whenever Broadway was touring, they would when they'd hold auditions for kids like The King and I or something, and they needed all these kids or Oliver and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
I'd always get the role, one of the roles. And so I just absolutely loved it, and it was my escape. And because being a young kid that felt that was trapped in the wrong body, or
Right.
in between the legs, it was
Being in a
um,
play is like a way to step into another
yeah.
role. It's like a break.
And to see these creatives that you knew had a different vibe to them, because you know they're gay, but an 8-year-old doesn't really know all this stuff, but
Sure.
you could just tell that there's this a different vibe out there for you once you got older. So yeah, yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
Well,
it almost sounds like growing up, like coming out wasn't an option, but like being stealth almost wasn't an option either, because it's like whenever you tried to pursue like any job, you got outed, but you
yes,
wanted to be stealth. So it's like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
such a different time.
Well, that's why so many back then, they would just move the way, like, way out. You always hear like Tula, or Lauren Foster, all these people, all these older trans people that did get a bit of infamy. It's like they had to go completely stealth, and then all of a sudden they're outed. and by some tabloid or something, and that's what it was like. And you would always, and you'd move to different countries or whatever, like you had to leave your whole family. You couldn't leave any loose ends. I know women to this day that their partners don't even know that they're married to a
Right.
woman that has had all that done. Yeah, it's just crazy, and they live in fear. And a lot of them connect with my channel and they talk to me privately, and it's kind of an outlet for them to come to the podcast and to see everybody chatting in the chat room, and it's a real release. I couldn't imagine that now, but I did have a taste of it. But yeah, in 2014 I finally just I did a video and put it up, and I just stutter in it the whole time. I'm so nervous, and but it felt so good. Like I felt like I had to do it. Like I just had to get off that completely get off that shame train. And I was in it, and
Right.
I was in a place in my life where I was engaged to be married to the husband that I'm with now, and I was finally in a safe place that I could just be completely open. And so that's what I do on YouTube and everything. And it's
Right.
weird because I live on Vancouver Island. So when I walk out the door and I go, it's like I'm just, Mrs. My husband's last name is Bunch, so I just say I'm Mrs. Honey Bunch going out shopping, right? Like, and it's like it just doesn't come up, and it's like if somebody came up to me and asked me stuff, I'd be more than happy to talk with them. But I'm just in like, just in regular ville here type of thing, right? There's not too much. But when you go in the city, you can kind of feel the vibe. You can kind of feel the ones that are kind of staring at you, or they can your
Yeah.
ears perk up because they hear that little bit of that boy's noise in your voice. And
Yeah.
they're kind of like going, and I just kind of turn and wink at them and walk away, right? It's like it's fun. But it's taken like God 58 years for me to like to be this relaxed with
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
It's like I couldn't
definitely.
imagine just like being not telling anyone for so. I mean, it was hard enough like not coming out for so long, but
Yeah.
like coming out and then still not telling
Yeah.
anyone. Like,
Yeah.
but I mean,
Or
like
and
what
having
you're
all the
saying is people like have those side eyes and things like that, and I feel like
yeah.
I couldn't
Mhm.
fully pass all the time, regardless, because I'm
Right.
like 6'6", so I stand out regardless, and my voice is like androgynous. I think people it attracts attention. So,
Oh, I think you have a lovely voice. See,
well,
that's the
thank
whole
you.
thing. I went through that too. I remember being completely like, oh my God. It's like I thought I was fine with my voice, but then I was hearing all these people. They were talking way up there, and they were just very like this, and talking and stuff. And I was going, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I actually went to like a voice place and to get my vocal cords done, and he listened to me and he went, no, he says just go get a vocal cord coach if you're that if you have a problem with your voice, or and go to Toastmasters or something. And he was going, there's a lot of women that have great beautiful whiskey voices to them and stuff, and I was just like, I left there and I was kind of like, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then I realized it's just you being, if you're I always say, like, if you're being a gracious guest on the earth and you're just walking out trying to do the best you can, and you're being a kind person, like that speaks volumes. Like I've been with women that look like they're you know they're, God bless them, that they were some of your viewers might be too young to understand this, but from the East German bloc swim team type of thing, and they're like very like masculine, and people just like look because you know they're absolutely gorgeous, like in the sense of strong and stuff, but very masculine in a way that
right.
it comes off like that. But they open up their mouth and they come up to somebody and they start talking, like, whether it be like a customer service rep or something like that, and you can see the customer service rep kind of like as they're coming up, and then once they start talking, within 2 minutes they're like laughing with each other and everything, and it's just this human experience,
Yeah,
right? and
it's
and
like those
that's
prejudices kind of
yes,
hopefully usually quickly melt away when they realize like, oh, you're
Yeah.
just a person.
Exactly. And I think that's the best way that we can teach people is
Mhm.
through that kindness and just being when I see the infighting happening and this tribal stuff and all the stuff, I just go, wow, it's like this that's just creating more discord, man. It's like, but everybody eventually people realize that kindness wins out all the time. That's what I
Right.
believe.
And
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like we're finally like moving in a generally positive direction, at least
Yeah.
the past few years, like, talking about like Laverne Cox, like,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
starting that trend of people being more and more in the media, like trans people being more in the
Yeah.
media, and there's
And of
more.
course, I thought, okay, there's going to be a huge, big backlash from it because
Yeah,
of that, and there was. And all of a sudden, there's
like
these
these 300 different
bathroom
bathroom bills. Yeah,
bathroom bills, and I'm going, oh my god! It's like, where do you think we have been peeing our whole lives? Like, this is so crazy. Like, But
it's
then
like,
again, it's not that crazy because sometimes I was laughing with a girlfriend the other day. She's another YouTuber, and I said, remember when you first got it? It's like you're in the bathroom and like you're peeing, and it's like you're going, oh my God, does it sound the same? Like you'd actually be listening to other women and how they pee so that you're peeing the
yes,
same way. I know you too, right?
yeah.
It's kind of like a rite of passage.
I
I was,
still do that. Like
yeah,
even
I
even
know.
like 2 years after having surgery, I'm
Yeah, is my
still doing
stream too
that.
much or is it too little? Or is like, should I do like the Morse code thing or what the fuck?
So it's just like, let me just hold it until everyone else leaves the bathroom.
It's so funny. It's just like, woo,
And then it's
just
like
pee,
eventually
just
realize that
pee.
nobody's listening.
Nobody cares except these weird people that have decided to, and that's because you know, the tipping point happened, and a lot of us, rub their noses in it and cause a lot of, you know what I mean? Like it is something out of the norm, what we
Yeah,
go through, you know what I mean? And it's like to give that birth, if you will, or that just that handicap to people that wow, it is to them, you know what I mean? So I don't
yeah.
know. I think that goes a long way too,
It's like the
to
very existence of trans people is like goes
hmm
against what a lot of people believe is right or like
yeah,
believe what like should exist. And it's like that.
yeah,
I feel like it's that common fear of people just being afraid of stuff they're unfamiliar with or being afraid of
exactly.
the unknown.
Yeah,
And
it is.
we're
It
the
always
unknown, I
is.
guess.
It always is fear, and it also it's brings out stuff inside them, right? Because ultimately, I'm this old wacky you know yogini Buddhist type of thing. And it's like, when you go into the scriptures of yoga and stuff, it's all about balancing the right and left channel, the male and female, to become one into the central channel. It's all about us, getting rid of that stuff so we become one. So
Right.
that becomes one. And I believe as a species we are like, we we've come out of the trees, we like the fur's coming off of our body. It's like some people don't even get born with wisdom teeth anymore. We're
Right.
becoming more and more angelic. The way that we look too, the more androgynous. It's like we are, if you look at it throughout. I was like totally into the leaky stuff when I was a kid, right? So a brainiac, Zindranthropus and Pithecanthropus erectus, and you know what I mean. My mom typing up my reports, screaming, I didn't come from no goddamn ape, and she's like still typing away. God bless her. But yeah, it's like the sexes, if you see them, like we're becoming more and more androgy I believe, if we don't blow ourselves up with this insanity. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, you know sometimes I don't anybody that died from this virus, it's like it's horrible, but it's weird how viruses and stuff like this slows us all down to realize what the hell is really effing important. And
Right.
it's like, because I've been feeling like that just even doing YouTube videos or whatever, like uploading, I'm going, this just doesn't feel like right to actually talk about it right now, like, or whatever. Like, it just feels like there's so much more deeper stuff to talk about as a human race type of thing for the
Yeah.
human race. And
It's kind of like the virus just kind of put our normal life on hold, and
yeah,
all these
yeah.
other things that we don't acknowledge are just like flooding forward, and so many
Or
people don't know what to do with it.
well, and I think also maybe it's also put a light on how abnormal our life was. Well, how normal really is it? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Fun, weird times we're living in.
No kidding. Yeah. So shoot me another question.
Yes. So, kind of talking about like where we've come from, like when you started coming out to now, I've wondered
Okay.
like, did you ever, like when you were like coming out in like the 70s and 80s, did you
Yeah.
ever imagine things would be where they are today in terms of how trans people are received?
God no. Oh God no. I've just I've I should be paralyzed from how many backflips I've been doing in the last 5 years, like with all you youngins just doing all this amazing stuff. I'm just like going, yes, oh my God, yes. Oh, this is so great. Oh my God, MJ Rodriguez is like doing this now. Oh my God. It's like it's like, wow, this is so cool. Because never in my wildest dreams, oh no, never, never. I never thought, because it was just about, you know, running away to Davie Street in Vancouver and, finding some trans woman that would tell you the magic ways to, you know, do your stuff and how to get doctors and stuff to help change you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And and then just it was all about, they just say, okay, first you get your nose and then you're prettier so you can make more money and then you can get your tits and then you can make more money and then you can get your hoo-ha type of thing, and you
Well,
get the two letters from these people and that people, and that's what we all did. It was just like, that's all we did. And then you just blend into the world and just, you either just marry and never tell them, or most of us just kept working, you know what I mean? And or you were a showgirl too, type of thing. And but yeah, but every time, like I touched on that, every time I tried to just get a job or something, it would always be, the humiliation, and they would just fire you on the spot, like
it's
thinking
so
like you did
awful.
something wrong, and they had no idea, and they think they're being tricked and all this stuff, and
Right.
all that gross stuff. It's like, and then as you're walking out, they're saying, well, I was wondering, all that weird stuff
Ugh.
that's just and all you want to do is just not stand on a street corner. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, it's just, and it's like, and to try to even go back to school as that, like, it's like there was nothing, there was there was no counselors or anything in place to handle that. But I would have loved to have transitioned like you did and kept going to school.
Right.
God, if I could have done that. God, but if wishes were fishes, right? Like, it's just the way that it is, because AIDS went rampant then, and I was such a, let's say, I was very sexually active when I was a kid, and searching for love, you know what I mean, in any way
Hmm.
I could. So God knows, if I would have even made it through that plague then, right? So, you know, we're all given the the deck that we've been dealt, let's say, and for a reason. So I'm here. I made
Yeah.
it.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad you are.
Yeah, but no, I did not believe that. I would never have believed it in a million years that we've come a long way. We've come so far, and it's amazing. There's so many friends of mine that have killed themselves, and I thought, if they only would have hung on and saw that all of these, it would have been so much more accepting. There was so much more medical advances for trans health and for transitioning, because so many like really close friends, like my best friend Tiggy, she compared herself with me, and when puberty really hit, and there wasn't puberty blockers back then,
Yeah.
and So she had dark hair that she always had to like wax and stuff, and she was just absolutely gorgeous, Métis, beautiful, beautiful, just gorgeous. And but she compared herself to me because I was fair and you know, never grew hair and stuff, and just, you know, my brother can't even grow a beard for the life of him, you know, type of thing, a little bit, but you know, just I was just lucky that way. And and it was, but it was too much for the transsexual or trans or whatever you want to call it back then, because you had to be so stealth, because it was really was a life or death thing to
Yeah.
not be found out there too. Like it was really dangerous, even more dangerous, because um yeah, it just really was. It was really was. Yeah.
It's like you had to be more stealth, and then all the medical stuff was
On
nowhere
top of it.
near where it is now. So it's just
No.
like
So a lot of them
doubly
kind
bad.
of gave up. And so a lot of them kind of lived, kind of did their boy thing during the day. But that you could, Tiggy, it was so weird to see her like that when she kind of, it was almost like she resigned herself that she was going to have to do that. And I saw the depression and the
Yeah,
alcoholism get deeper. And so I think we lost a lot of people. And I think a lot of people today, um, have it better that way, you know, that you can be uh you don't have to be like perfectly stealth type of thing to exist in this world. And back then it's like you did,
right.
you know, it's like you just did. It was so, and that kept so many people in the closets and all that stuff. It's quite quite boggling when I think back on it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I know from my experience and a lot of people that I know that are like around my age, maybe a little younger, a little older, that are like have just come out in recent years. It's like obviously coming out is still hard today, and you know,
Yes.
I've gone through so much, but I think the amount of acceptance that I've received has been pleasantly surprising.
Yes.
It's
You
like
can do it today.
it's still like, you know, I've encountered so many struggles with like my family and like my
Yeah.
job and like, you know, coming to school and just going out in public on a daily basis and having that
Yeah.
anxiety. But
Yeah.
like
But you have the right to
generally,
do it today. You
yeah,
generally have the right to do it. Where back then it was like you didn't have the right to do it. Like people,
yeah,
even that's why I'm saying like the gay people were kind of like going, who does she think she is going to like work there or something like that? Or it's like, and they'd always gossip. They, oh, you know her? Well, she's a guy. You know what I mean? Like it's like they'd
right.
actually say that, like, you know, and it's like I remember gay parades, even like they're gay guys going, oh, that's one right there. That it's, you know, there's one. It's like, and I'm just like, wow. And I'm like the stealth one, and I'm behind them listening to this, watching them do it.
It's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah. And
But
and it still happens because people just think, you know, I don't know. Yeah, people don't think.
you know, it's just like, sounds like back then more and more people just thought like being trans was like a delusion, which
Oh, yeah.
a lot of people in the mental health community thought that.
Yes.
And we're finally at a place where, you know, professionals are
Yeah. Didn't we
not
just get
really
out of the
feeling that.
DSM? Didn't it just get taken out of the
Kind of like
kind of?
gender identity disorder got replaced with gender dysphoria, but gender dysphoria is still in the DSM. So it,
Okay.
it's
Well,
weird.
I think
It's
that's a verb. I think that's a verb, not a noun, too. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
I don't really,
it's like an experience or
yes,
like a
it is.
feeling.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like a step in the right direction because it's no longer considered like a mental illness,
Yeah.
but it's still in the DSM, so there's still a
Right.
lot of stigma with that. So
Yeah. 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 It's very, yeah. If somebody plunked me into like a, you know, into a group of like 12 women that were talking about, you know, that they all had babies, and it's like they were all very conservative and stuff, and I just happened to be there, I'd probably experience some dysphoria there,
I
because
could imagine.
it's not my experience, right? Type of thing. But yeah, but it, and I guess I kind of get, I guess I do experience a bit of it now when I see some of these what they call turfs and stuff, and when
Yeah.
I try to never even listen, but I had to kind of see what is this about, and I listened a bit, and just the absolute uh yeah, it's just the absolute I don't know, it's just not kind,
Yeah,
not
it's
kind.
just weird people
Yeah,
advocating for women's
yeah.
rights, but explicitly exclude trans people.
Yeah,
Like,
but then
it's
again, I've been around
boggling.
long enough to know that there's a lot of trans women that I've known, and it used to be, and this is really politically incorrect, but we used to always say, "Oh, don't go near that one. That's a psycho tranny,"
Mm,
because and we go, "Okay," and it would usually be somebody that is probably borderline personality disorder or something
mm.
that just would not let go of something and stuff. And there's been people that have tried to go into women's spaces, and they're obviously not well, and so some of these women, some of the turf people, I think they've used that, you know what I mean, and
Yeah,
said, oh, it's trans thing, but no, it's actually a mental health thing, and they're not
yeah.
well.
They just pick
And
up on the outliers and use
yeah,
that as an excuse.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I see that a lot. Yeah, in those dialogues or whatever that I usually see the when I go and see who the other character is in it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sad.
It's that kind of
Yeah,
stuff that makes me still feel uncomfortable when I go into like women's only spaces or like women's only groups, especially ones where I'm like the only trans woman.
right, right.
Like I've been a part of a couple of groups like that, and thankfully they have all been okay. But it's just
Good.
like kind of feeling like, when is this subject going to come up? And
Yeah,
like, do they really feel like I belong here?
yeah,
Like, it's just all that, you know,
yeah,
self doubt.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So how's it going?
With what?
I don't know. How do I look? I can't see how I look. Do I look okay?
You look wonderful,
Oh, thank you. My
complete
lotus is
with
still
your,
glowing.
it is glowing.
Oh, good.
You and your lotus.
Aw, thank you. Are you really 6'6"?
I am.
Wow, that's
Yeah, I
awesome.
guess, yeah, we've never met in person, so you
I
wouldn't
know.
necessarily know
I'm
that.
5'11". I'm 5'11".
Oh, so
Yeah.
you're tall too.
Tall girls, yeah, yeah. What's the trans woman? And she was in uh, Ryan Murphy's American Horror Story Freak Show. She's really tall.
Yeah,
She's gorgeous. She does a lot of modeling and stuff.
she's like 6'11" or something. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, she was just really, really tall.
yeah, yeah. She's really beautiful.
hmm
Yeah,
Like when I saw that, I was like, is she actually that tall, or is that like special
yeah.
effects? And it's like, oh no, she actually is that tall.
She is. That's awesome.
So that's been a whole process trying to learn to like own my height.
Yes, me
Since like,
too. I remember that too. Like I remember like hunching over trying to make myself smaller and stuff and all
yeah,
that stuff. And then it was so nice when I reached that point where it just, no, roll the shoulders back and just be, you know, be healthy. Like you don't want to be rounding your spine. That's so unhealthy.
right.
Like forget about all the rest. Yeah. Yeah.
So I just have like one question left. I like to try to be optimistic and look forward to the
Sure.
future and make change and all that. So I want to ask, like, where do you think we go from here? Like, what do you think still needs to change? Because like you've been out for a long time and you've kind of
Hmm.
seen this transition from like really bad times to gradually getting better, but it's still obviously not perfect. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering, with your insight, where do you think we
Where
still
do
need to
we,
go?
yeah. The first thing that comes to mind, I think, is I think continuing to the trajectory that we're doing, of course, like I think there's all those different layers to, um, you know, and it's all relative to where you are in your transition or your society as well, too, you know. Because because I know for trans women of color, they have it's when I hear their stories, I think, oh my God, it's still so close to where I was,
Yeah.
back in the day, like the mortality rate, all that stuff, because of the uber masculine um, and uh, uh, society. It's Angelica Ross have talked about it. Everybody's has talked about that about um, uh, black men in society too. That they have there's that uber masculine thing. So all that BS type of thing too. That's kind of uh, that's where I see that it's going really slow there type of thing.
Right.
So it's different parts has different things have to continue to happen. But I think just more um, I think just more dialogue, like loving kindness as we're uh, doing healthy debate and talking and stuff, and to flesh out those people that are spinning it, like what I was talking about, like these people like the trans exclusionary radical feminists that will present cases about people invading spaces, and look at them, look at this, and it's the Jessica Yanos and all these people that
Yeah.
aren't well, and it's like they're spinning it like politicians so that they can just paint everybody with that broad brush. And I'm here to say, to those people, if uh, it wasn't for me being able to heal as a woman um, in 1990 and go into a women's treatment center and living there, and go through and unlearn all the stuff that I was abused with other women, I would not have made it. You know what I mean? And I had to do that. And I was that was 2 years before I had my bottom surgery. So I had to completely be stealth about it. But I needed to
Yeah.
be around women and heal, right? And but I knew, and I knew, and we as women of trans experience need to also, um, uh, like I say, be gracious guests in the world, and like I did in that treatment center, know that I need this healing. I need to be around these people. So I have to just, unfortunately, not talk about that. That talk about that talk about that part of myself right now, because I'm healing this part, and just
Right.
be and just be it was just common sense to me to do that, right? And um and then I was able to open up and heal that stuff later, which was amazing. And that's what happened. The next place that I fell into, um, the recovery house that I lived in for a year. These two women that ran it were these lesbians, and I finally told them. I said, "Oh my God, it's like a oh my God, I feel so bad because I went to this women's treatment center, and it's like, and I had to heal from there, because like, where else am I supposed to go?" And, I said, "I'm transsexual." And they said, "Oh, wow, that's amazing." It's like, "Well, when did you get the surgery?" And I was like, "Oh, I had it years ago." And then it's like, I had to lie, you know what I
Right.
mean? And then about 3 months later, when I got a bit more recovery in me and a little bit more self-esteem, I went back down, and I was crying, and I'm going, "Oh my God, it's like I lied to you." And is there going, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, it's like, I've lived this way since I was 15 and everything. And I haven't had the surgery down there yet. And I've wanted it." And one of them grabbed me, and well, they both actually hugged me. And one
Yeah.
whispered in my ear, she said, "Marty, we wouldn't care if you're an alien with 8 assholes." And they,
That's quite a line.
I know. And I just started crying. It was
Mm,
like the sweetest thing anybody had ever said to me, because I knew that they just loved me for me,
yeah.
and I was healing the way I needed to heal and stuff. And so, yeah, I'm thinking, I'm thinking for us as persons as trans experience going through it, to you know to be gracious in the world, like not to be so combative and all that stuff. It's like as we're we still have to educate and do all that stuff, but remember it's an experience that is not common. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that I see that us dropping the ball on type of thing, and then it just creates that discord and those crazy monkeys that live for that, pick up on that and they just run, and the next thing you know, there's all these bathroom bills and all this stuff, right?
Yeah, and I feel
And
like we talked about this a little bit when I was on your channel, like kind of
yeah,
like being cognizant of the spaces that you're in and kind
yeah,
of just being aware
exactly.
of like
Yeah.
what do you think is appropriate or inappropriate in that space, and kind of just
Hmm.
realizing what would anybody else do. And
Yeah. Because I think if we're doing that with ourselves, if people, have a problem with it, uh, you can see where the problem is. You know what I mean? It's like if you're just being a gracious guest in the world, like I like to say, and I think it makes those people think, kind of go away because you're not going to engage with that stuff type of thing. You're kind of working on a on a more pleasant vibration, right? Yeah,
right,
yeah. But yeah, I definitely think that that's one of the things, and to also realize that we're all in different states, like we're all in different states of transition,
yeah,
and when it comes to non-binary or gender non-specific or all this stuff, like that's so great. Like we didn't even have names for it then. We were just trying to survive, you
right,
know. And when we transitioned, we just kind of knew as we were coming out of the gates. I kind of knew when I could wear something and be safe. You know what I mean? And
right,
rather than now, it's kind of like I will do so much to shock you. It's kind of reminds me of when we were punk rock, when I was in the punk rock stuff, and we do, people would be doing stuff. It was all this shock stuff, right, type of thing. And I see that in the trans communities and people just being like, I'm just gonna be whatever. It's like okay, but it's like I think it's kind of like a rite of passage, and it's kind of you know, um, you know, they're so cute at that age and all that stuff type of thing. And it's wonderful because I was doing it too. You know what I mean?
hmm
And we need to we need to like shock people and do that, whatever we need to do. It's something, I don't know, that's just in us as human beings, as young kids trying to put their mark in life and
yeah.
stuff.
And people
And
are
to
just more
not make,
free to be who they are and more free to be
yeah.
stuff that's outside the box and
Mm-hmm.
challenging what it
Yeah.
means to be any
Mm-hmm.
gender, to just
Mm-hmm.
challenging what it means to be like a human, like.
That's what it boils down to. Exactly. Right. What it boils down to. Yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully we're expanding people's minds along the way and gradually making
Yes.
it better for the younger ones.
Yes. That's the whole thing. Yeah. Keep that. Well, it's evolution. Like we're part of evolution. I think we're like just, like Bette Midler has that song. It's about a fried egg, and some people she talks about this guy, and he was wearing a fried egg, had a fried egg on his head, walking down New York, and it was like 102 degrees, and he was saying, well, he says, some of us wear it on the outside, some of us wear it on the inside, but we all have one, you
Hmm,
know, it's we all have something that's on our face or inside of us that we're like working on and stuff, and
right.
yeah, like it's and yeah, we're all healing, healing, we're all going through that we're all going through that transition, and in life and everything, and it's like, and I think us having a trans experience is just, in society, just really bloody obvious. You know what I mean? In the sense of what it is, but I think we're all doing that. We're all trying to balance that male and female within us. Going back to
hmm
the whole yogi thing, right? It's like, like the whole, if we've been in the patriarch. Look what the patriarchy's done to, for millennia after millennia, right, type of thing, and
Gosh.
and it's like, and now, women were having, more of a say at the table, and to not just
Hmm.
say at the table, but to start to steer the ship. And it's like, and it's about balancing that male and female, not just even like how to run the world, but like within ourselves. Like, I know for me, I'll just end with this, that I'm so grateful that I ran away from Calgary, which is kind of in Canada. It's kind of like the prairies, right? And so it was very women were very uber feminine, and my mother had a modeling agency, and so everything was very uber feminine. So me as a trans child, I was thinking like, okay, everything's kind of uber femme, right? So I kind of got that really quickly, but it just still didn't feel right, especially because I was hiding out in the gay clubs and with drag queens and stuff like that, and something just didn't feel right. And it wasn't until I moved to Victoria in when I was 18, and I met all of these really cool women that were, into the punk music like me and stuff, and they were quite, and they were playing with their masculine with the masculine as well, type of thing, and be very feminine too sometimes. Women's Army Corps outfits or something. It's
Right.
women Army Corps outfit night or something like that, with a ripped up fishnets and let's go dance type of thing, and or the army boots, and a t-shirt, and the slicked hair. We'd go out, and me having that couple of years with these wonderful women, and it was this girl gang called the Speed Queens, because we all did our laundry at this laundromat with Speed Queen washers and dryers, right? And so I had 2 years of like uh, hanging out with these really powerful, young, fun women, and it made me realize that I could be a really far out strong, punk woman too,
Yeah.
and that's who that was part of me. And it felt so good, because before that it was everybody was kind of like, "Ooh, girl, that's not feminine." You know what I mean? Like, I used to have this French woman from Montreal, this trans girl. She was older than me, and she would just go, and I would have the punk rock, like Star Trek, like
Yeah.
eyebrows, Nina Hagen eyebrows. And I'll never forget it. We were on a cab going home one day, and she's looking at me. She's going, girl, I don't like your eyebrows. They're not feminine. They're not feminine. And I was just like laughing. I just thought it was so great. She turned to the cab. She turned to the cab driver, and she said, "She's a communist."
Oh my goodness.
It was so funny. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So hopefully that answers the question.
I think so. If
Good.
if all of us in the world can just like balance all that different masculine, feminine, any
Mm-hmm.
gender energy that we have and just be more comfortable with who we are, regardless of what other
Yeah.
people say, I think the world would
Mm-hmm.
be a much better place.
Yeah, because to tell you the truth, like, I always think, like, I'm a deep thinker, and I've always thought, like, it's like it would have been cool that won't it be cool that at some point we're born with all these feelings or whatever, and we're in a society that we don't have to do anything to ourselves.
Right? We can just show up as we are and
We
that's
can just show up
okay.
as we are, and that's okay. And I'm stunned at how many surgeries, like, I've had nose, boobs, like vagina. I just had a facelift 2 months ago, because, like, that's what we do. And it's like, but it's that conditioned part, but part of me goes, because I remember when I first got clean and sober, and I was really getting into the spirit stuff and like really seeking, and I thought, wow, I really hope that my spirituality overtakes my vanity, and then so I don't have to. And so, because I was so torn to get in this facelift a couple months ago, right?
Right.
And but it was kind of like when I had the surgery, like, I had that Garden of Gethsemane moment, when Jesus and they're going, "Do I have to do this?" Before he gets
Hmm.
crucified, and I was like, I was with my girlfriend saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe I have to do this," and we were crying, and it was the day before I was going down, because I couldn't believe what I had to do to feel congruent in this at this time in life where the world is at this moment. And I couldn't help but think if the world was a bit different, I wouldn't have to do it.
It's like we have to do so much just to feel like
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah. So powerful. So maybe this is how we lay it down and on the record so that it can evolve into, people realizing that that's where we had to come from,
Just
you know?
let everyone be.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
Well, just,
we'll hopefully be in a better world, because I feel
yeah,
like a lot of problems people experience are because they feel unable to truly be themselves, and
yes.
that creates a lot of like pent up negative emotions that come out in so many negative ways.
So true. Yes, absolutely. Go tell it on the mountain. Well, first
Well,
in academia, burn it down first.
I'll just wrap it up there.
So I'll just say, well, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining. It's been such a pleasure having you, and it was such a pleasure
Aw.
being on your channel.
No, I'm so proud of you, everything that you do, and I'm just so excited for what you're going to be doing in the future, and I look forward for you to be my personal therapist someday.
Well, in a couple of years, maybe.
There you go.
It might be a conflict of interest or like
Yeah,
a dual
really.
relationship,
No,
but
we'll just have a coffee talk. We'll be each other's therapists. Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Awesome.
For everyone watching, make sure you go check out Marty's channel, Beyond Trans with Marty. I'll put the link to her channel down in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. My cat Tipsy, wherever she is, and I both love you very much. And love you too, Marty.
Love you, honey. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.